My psycho mom told me she should be the only woman in my life. When I finally brought home my first girlfriend at 26, she completely lost her mind. She exploded and made her cry. That was my breaking point, and I went nuclear. Within a few months, my mom was begging for forgiveness and telling us she'd do anything to restore the relationship. Ever since I was a kid, my mom made it crystal clear that she would come before my wife. And so, my dream of having a wife I loved was always dependent on my mother accepting her and liking her too. When I entered high school, I wanted to start dating, but every time I showed a picture of a girl I liked to my mom, she'd shut it down, saying I didn't need a girlfriend because she should be the only woman in my life. I knew deep down that what she was doing was wrong, but I pushed it away because I never wanted to make my mom upset. Fast forward 7 years later. I'm now 26, and at the last family gathering, I brought over my first ever girlfriend. I was positive she would be the girl my mom accepted. She was studying to be a veterinarian, was drop-dead gorgeous, and had been a national-level swimmer in high school. She kept reassuring me that things would be okay, and that my mom would love her. For a second, I actually believed her. So when I knocked on my parents' door, I had more confidence than ever. But then my mom opened the door. "Hey Mom, I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Lily." "What is this word doing here with my precious baby boy?" she interrupted, yelling. Both Lily's face and mine deflated, and I tried to say something. "Mom, please, just give her a chance." "No, she doesn't get to just come into our house. She knows she's not good enough for you, doesn't she?" she said, turning to Lily. I saw Lily holding back tears, and I felt so many emotions overcome me at once. Anger, embarrassment, hatred, everything. I told Lily we were going back to my car, and as I took her hand, my mom began speaking again. "Where are you going, honey? You're coming in. It's only this word who can't." I stood in shock. I wanted to scream, but I kept my mouth shut and walked back to the car with Lily. My mom's voice got louder the more we walked away, as she was now getting angry at me for choosing Lily over her. The second we got back to my car, Lily broke down. She started crying, telling me this had never happened to her before. She lunged into me, asking if she was really such a bad girlfriend. I reassured her. And while I was holding her, I asked myself something. If I were my mom, would I raise my son and treat his girlfriend the way she does? The answer was no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have this weird, borderline gross obsession with isolating me from every single girl who had ever come near me. I wouldn't have stopped myself from going to my favorite band's concert when I was 17 just because my female cousin was going. I wouldn't have demanded that I attend a boys-only high school. I wouldn't have shot down every girl I had ever tried bringing home. And I certainly wouldn't react this way to my son bringing over a girl as intelligent, beautiful, and kind as Lily was. At that moment, for the first time in my life, I began fully resenting my mom. I comforted Lily, kissing her forehead while she cried, telling her everything was going to be okay. And as soon as she calmed down, something inside me snapped. I stormed out of the car and headed straight back up to my mom's front door. She opened it, and as soon as she saw me, a smile formed on her face. "You made the right choice, honey." "Shut up." Her face went white when I interrupted her. "I don't understand." "No, I don't understand," I interrupted again. "What is wrong with you?" She just stared at me. "Are you in love with me or something?" I demanded. "Do you fantasize about me? Is that why you used to come into my room at night and cuddle me? Is that why you can't let me see a single girl in my life? Is that why you forced me to cut off every single female relative?" My mom was completely stumped. Her face turned even paler. For a second, I actually thought my words were getting through to her, until, of course, she turned sour again. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "I just want you to understand that I raised you, no one else. The girls you pick need my approval. It's not my fault I have high standards." "High standards?" I exploded. "The first girl I ever brought over, you threatened to call the police if she didn't leave your baby boy to you and you only." "Oh, you're exaggerating," she said in her usual dismissive tone. "No, I'm not, Mom. I hate you. I never want to see you again." She gasped. "I want you to know that I'm in love with Lily. She's going to be my girlfriend, and hopefully my wife and the mother of my kids. And you're not stopping it." I didn't even let her respond. I turned around and walked away. I got back to the car where Lily was wiping the last of the tears from her face. As I put the key in the ignition, I heard her voice shake. "Oh my God, is that your mom?" I looked up. My mom was running out of the house and straight toward my car. I started the engine and revved it as fast as I could, but it wasn't fast enough. She reached the window and began punching it, screaming at me to roll it down. I didn't. I just started driving. As we pulled away, I saw her in the side mirror standing in the driveway screaming at the top of her lungs. On the drive home, I was furious. My mom kept calling me over and over again. Lily kept apologizing, saying she was sorry for embarrassing me, asking if I was sure I still liked her. I reassured her, but honestly, everything around me felt muted. Because I knew one thing for certain. I was going to have a relationship with Lily, and I was going to make my mom back off. But then another realization hit me. I hadn't really dealt with her at all yet. The situation with my mom was far from over. Lily seemed to sense my anxiety as we drove back to my apartment. "Your mom needs serious help, Ethan," she said quietly, squeezing my hand as we pulled into the parking spot. I nodded, still angry, still shaking. But underneath it all, I felt something unexpected. Guilt, not for standing up to my mom, but for allowing her behavior to continue unchecked for so many years. Once inside my apartment, Lily and I collapsed onto the couch, completely drained from what had just happened. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Call after call, notification after notification, all from my mom. She started with guilt-tripping messages. "How could you do this to me after everything I've sacrificed for you?" Then the tone shifted. "If you choose that woman over me, don't be surprised when things happen." The messages kept coming faster and faster, spiraling from emotional manipulation to outright threats. I finally muted my phone and tossed it across the room. Lily rested her head on my shoulder, still shaking. We sat there in silence for a long time. Eventually, she spoke softly. "You might want to talk to a professional about your relationship with your mom." I didn't respond right away. "This isn't normal," she added quietly. "You know that, right?" I nodded, even though saying it out loud made my chest tighten. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. That night, neither of us slept well. Lily was still processing the verbal assault she'd endured, and I kept waking up from nightmares where my mother was chasing us through endless hallways, screaming my name. By morning, my phone was a disaster. 47 missed calls, 29 voicemails, over 100 text messages, all from my mom. The most disturbing one came at 4:27 a.m. "I'm coming over to talk some sense into you. That girl has poisoned your mind against me." My stomach dropped. I immediately called my dad. He sounded exhausted when he answered. "Your mother didn't come home last night," he sighed. "She's been driving around looking for your place. I tried to stop her, but you know how she gets." My heart started pounding. I thanked him quickly and hung up. Then I rushed around the apartment, locking every window and door while Lily watched me, fear creeping across her face. "We should call the police," she said. I hesitated. I didn't want to escalate things. That hesitation proved costly. Less than 20 minutes later, frantic pounding shook the front door. "Ethan James Wilson! Open this door right now!" My mother's voice echoed through the apartment. Lily froze mid-step, her eyes wide with fear. I motioned for her to stay back as I approached the door slowly. Through the peephole, I saw my mother's distorted face. Her eyes were wild. Her hair was disheveled. She kept pounding like she was trying to break the door down. "Mom, you need to leave," I called through the door, forcing my voice to stay calm. "I told you yesterday. I'm not discussing this anymore." Her response was immediate. "If you don't open this door in 5 seconds, I'm calling the police and telling them your girlfriend attacked me." My blood ran cold. I looked back at Lily. She was already dialing 911, nodding at me to keep my mom talking. "Mom," I said firmly, "you need help. This isn't normal. You can't threaten people and stalk me to my apartment." The pounding suddenly stopped. For a brief moment, I thought she might have left. Then I heard a sound that made my stomach drop. Keys. I remembered too late. My parents still had a spare key from when they helped me move in. I lunged for the deadbolt just as my mother started inserting her key into the lock. I managed to secure it before she could turn the handle. Her scream of frustration pierced through the door as she resumed pounding, harder than before. "You ungrateful child. After everything I've done for you." Behind me, Lily was speaking urgently into the phone, giving our address to the emergency dispatcher and explaining what was happening. I backed away from the door as my mother's rant became more disturbing. "I'll tell everyone what you did to me when you were 13, she shrieked. I froze. I had no idea what she was referring to, but the implication was clearly meant to terrify me. 10 excruciating minutes later, we heard sirens approaching. My mother's screaming abruptly stopped. From the living room window, I watched as 2 police officers approached my mother in the hallway outside my apartment. They spoke calmly while she gesticulated wildly, pointing toward my door and crying loudly enough for me to hear fragments through the glass. A knock came at the door. I opened it cautiously, keeping the chain on. One officer remained in the hallway with my mother, while the other stepped slightly forward to speak with us. My mother immediately collapsed into tears, her voice soft and trembling in a way that made my stomach turn. "My son's girlfriend has been manipulating him," she sobbed, clinging to the female officer's arm. "She's isolating him from his family, from the people who love him." The officer's expression didn't change. Inside the apartment, the second officer spoke with Lily and me. He introduced himself as Officer Collins and asked us to explain what had happened. I showed him everything: the missed calls, the voicemails, the text messages, the threats. I told him about the confrontation at my parents' house, my mom showing up unannounced, and her threat to make false accusations against Lily. Officer Collins listened carefully, scrolling through my phone with a deepening frown. Family situations can be complicated, he said diplomatically. But what you're describing sounds like harassment. He paused. Would you like to file for a restraining order? I hesitated. My chest felt tight as I looked at Lily. She met my eyes and gave me a small, encouraging nod. Yes, I said finally. I think that's necessary. What followed was one of the most exhausting periods of my life. Statements, paperwork, court dates. My mother fought the restraining order viciously. She hired an expensive lawyer who painted her as a loving mother concerned for her son's well-being. She claimed she was only afraid of losing me and that Lily had turned me against her. But my mom couldn't help herself. During one hearing, she erupted into an outburst, calling the female judge a homewrecker who probably stole someone's husband. That alone seemed to seal it. The judge granted a 1-year restraining order, requiring my mother to stay at least 500 feet away from both Lily and me. That evening, my dad called. He sounded more defeated than I'd ever heard him. Your mother isn't well, Ethan, he said quietly. She's refused to admit it for years, but maybe this will finally be a wake-up call. He told me he'd convinced her to see a therapist, though she insisted it was only to prove how Lily had brainwashed me. In the weeks that followed, Lily and I settled into a strange new normal. Without my mother's constant interference, I started discovering parts of myself I didn't even know existed. Interests, opinions, preferences that had been suppressed for years. Lily was incredibly patient. She encouraged me to explore those parts of myself and gently suggested that I might benefit from therapy too. I resisted at first. My mom had always spoken about mental health support with contempt. But eventually, I agreed. That's how I met Dr. Harris. He spoke calmly, never rushed me, and introduced concepts I'd never heard before but instantly recognized. Emotional incest, covert narcissism. These dynamics often create grief, he explained during our third session. Not just for the relationship you wanted with your parent, but for the person you were never allowed to become. That night, I cried in Lily's arms. Not because of my mom, but because I was finally mourning the childhood I should have had. 6 months into the restraining order, my dad called with unexpected news. Your mom's been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, he said cautiously. She's on medication now and attending therapy twice a week. I stayed quiet. She's different, he continued. Not completely changed, but she's starting to recognize that her behavior was inappropriate. I didn't rush to believe it, but I agreed to receive periodic updates about her progress, nothing more. During that time, Lily and I grew closer than ever. Going through something like that together either breaks a relationship or strengthens it. For us, it did the latter. On our 1-year anniversary, I proposed during a quiet dinner at home. No crowd, no spectacle, just the two of us. She said yes through tears. Before proposing, I'd asked her parents for their blessing. Her father pulled me aside afterward and gripped my shoulder firmly. You've shown real courage standing up to your mother, he said. That tells me everything I need to know about how you'll treat my daughter. We decided on a small wedding, only close friends and family. My dad came alone. My mom had been informed of the engagement, but she respected the restraining order. Instead, she sent a card. Inside was a surprisingly thoughtful message. I'm working on myself so that someday I might earn back the privilege of being in your life. Congratulations to you both. The wedding day itself was everything we hoped for. Peaceful, joyful, free of tension. Lily was radiant in her simple white dress. As we exchanged vows beneath a canopy of autumn leaves, I felt something settle inside me. For the first time, my life felt like my own. During the reception, my dad approached us holding a small gift box and an envelope. Your mother wanted you to have this, he said. She wrote it with her therapist, and they both signed it. The letter inside was 3 pages long. A real apology. No excuses, no deflection, full responsibility. The gift box held my grandmother's watch, a family heirloom my mother had always refused to part with. A gesture of letting go, my dad explained, his eyes misty. After our honeymoon, I agreed to a carefully controlled meeting with my mom in her therapist's office. The woman who greeted me barely resembled the one who had pounded on my door years earlier. She spoke carefully. She kept her distance. I know I can never undo the harm I caused, she said, hands clasped tightly, but I'm committed to being better. That was the first of many monitored sessions. Eventually, those turned into short coffee meetings with strict boundaries. Lily joined some of them. Her presence was a testament to her compassion and strength. 3 years after our wedding, Lily told me she was pregnant. And suddenly, everything changed again. When Lily announced she was pregnant with our first child, we faced a decision I had been quietly dreading. How much access would my mother have to our baby? After many long conversations, Lily and I agreed on one condition: supervised visits only, no exceptions. My mother accepted this with a humility I never thought I'd see from her. The day our daughter Ava was born, my mother waited patiently in the hospital waiting room. When we finally invited her in, her hands trembled as she held her granddaughter for the first time. She cried quietly. "Thank you for this second chance," she whispered, carefully returning Ava to Lily after just a few minutes. Our relationship with my mother would never be normal, but it was different. I continued therapy, working through the lingering damage of my upbringing. Lily became an advocate for families affected by personality disorders, eventually starting a small support group at the veterinary clinic, where she worked as a senior practitioner. As Ava grew, we maintained firm boundaries. My mom offered help, and I agreed, but only with conditions. She could visit twice a week, 3 hours each time. No unscheduled visits, no undermining our parenting decisions. She tested those boundaries constantly. Her first visit was tense. She criticized how I held Ava and questioned our feeding schedule. Lily caught my eye across the room. I took a breath and redirected instead of confronting. The next visit went better. A month later, she showed up unannounced at 7 in the morning on a Sunday. I answered the door in my boxers, exhausted from a night of colic screams. She tried to push past me with a bag full of baby clothes. I stopped her in the hallway. "You need to leave," I said calmly. "Call later and we'll schedule a visit." Her face crumpled, and the familiar guilt tried to claw its way back into my chest, but I stood my ground. Later that day, she called and apologized. That was a first. We rescheduled for Tuesday afternoon. Progress wasn't linear, but it was real. The biggest breakthrough came during a family dinner when Ava was 6 months old. My mom started her usual narrative about how no one had ever loved me like she did, how she'd sacrificed everything. I felt Lily tense beside me. Instead of staying silent or snapping, I tried something new. I acknowledged her sacrifices. Then I gently said there were many ways to love someone. The conversation shifted. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Years of therapy helped me recognize the wounded child inside my mother. Her own upbringing had been harsh and conditional. She'd never learned healthy attachment. Understanding that didn't excuse her behavior, but it helped me respond without anger. As Ava grew from infant to toddler, the dynamic shifted again. My mom became obsessed with being the favorite grandmother. She brought excessive gifts and competed with Lily's parents for attention. So I implemented a gift limit policy for everyone. She resisted, but she complied. Around this time, she quietly returned to therapy. I didn't hear it from her directly. My aunt let it slip during a family gathering. I didn't confront her about it. Some journeys need privacy. Ava's 3rd birthday party became an unexpected milestone. My mom helped with decorations without taking over. She deferred to our plans. She even collaborated with Lily's mother on the cake. Lily squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes saying everything I was feeling. That night, after everyone left, I found myself sorting through old photos. Pictures of me at 3 years old, my mother's arms wrapped tightly around me. Too tightly. I noticed the anxiety in my eyes, the tense shoulders, the way I leaned into her, not out of comfort, but obligation. Then I looked at the photos from Ava's birthday. She was laughing freely, running between adults who loved her without needing to possess her. The contrast hit me hard. I was breaking the cycle. That shift began affecting other areas of my life too. At work, I became more assertive. I set clearer boundaries. I stopped taking on impossible deadlines just to prove my worth. My boss noticed the change. I was promoted. The extra income helped Lily and me buy our first house, a modest 3-bedroom with a small yard. My mom offered to help with the down payment. I thanked her, but declined. Financial entanglements had always been her favorite leash. The house needed work, and our weekends were filled with painting and repairs. To my surprise, my mom showed up in old clothes, ready to help without criticism. She and Lily planted a garden together. Small green shoots pushing through dark soil felt like hope made visible. That summer, my brother visited. He'd moved across the country years ago and kept minimal contact with our mom. Watching our new family dynamic, he looked confused. "How can you stand to have her around at all?" he asked. I explained the boundaries, the therapy, the work we'd both done. He shook his head. "You're a better person than me." I wasn't. Just someone who made different choices. Holidays had once been battlegrounds, my mom demanding traditions, meltdowns if plans changed. That year, we hosted Thanksgiving, potluck style. My mom brought her famous stuffing without insisting everyone acknowledge its superiority. She helped clean up afterward, and she left when she said she would. After she went home, Lily cried. "I never thought this was possible," she whispered. Neither had I. Raising a child while healing my own childhood wounds was complicated. Ava's first tantrum triggered something primal in me. My hands shook. I walked away instead of reacting and called my therapist the next day. We worked through it, built strategies for separating my past from Ava's present. My mom noticed those moments too. Once, after watching me struggle through Ava's defiance, she approached carefully. "You're doing a good job," she said. "You're a good father." Those words shouldn't have mattered so much, but they did. 2 years later, our family dynamic shifted again when my son, Noah, was born. This time, my mother seemed more relaxed, less desperate to prove herself. She had established her place in our family system, knew the boundaries would hold, and understood her role was limited. My father, who had been largely peripheral in my childhood, started to show interest. He called more often, visited more frequently, and even offered to help around the house. Having both kids meant the early months were a blur. Sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and constant juggling of responsibilities. My work stress peaked at the same time, and the old patterns, the compulsion to overwork and prove my worth, tried to creep back in. This time I caught myself. I requested deadline extensions and delegated where I could. I made it home for dinner most nights. I refused to sacrifice my family for my job. Lily's career was also taking off. Between her veterinary practice and her support group, we had to coordinate schedules meticulously. Sometimes it was smooth, sometimes friction erupted. My mother offered to watch the kids one afternoon a week, and for the first time, she followed our rules. No unsolicited advice, no interference. She simply read to them, played, and spent time with them. No performance, no expectation, just presence. Watching this, I felt the contrast with my own childhood hit me harder than ever. I remembered being a tense little boy, trying to navigate my mother's possessive love, and now I saw my children moving freely, confident that they were loved for who they were, not as extensions of me or anyone else. A new kind of satisfaction filled me, quiet, steady, and deep. Friendship with my mother became possible around this time. Not obligation, not duty, but actual enjoyment of each other's company. We discovered shared interests in gardening and history documentaries, simple pleasures that didn't carry emotional manipulation. I began noticing subtleties in her behavior too. She'd laugh more easily, step back rather than step forward, and for the first time, seemed genuinely interested in connecting without control. It was progress, not perfection. As Ava started kindergarten, my mother attended the first day photos. She stood back, letting Lily and me have our moment while still being included. No interference. Later, she even showed me a photo from my own first day of school, when she had held my hand so tightly my fingers had gone white. History wasn't repeating itself. Even extended family began noticing the shift. My brother's wedding brought relatives together. Old tensions surfaced immediately. Side comments, raised eyebrows, memories of how my mother had behaved. She noticed it too, and withdrew slightly from the chaos. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel responsible for her emotions. I found her alone on the venue's patio. We sat together briefly. I acknowledged that things were different now. I didn't need to fix her. I only needed to maintain the boundaries that allowed our family to function, while still giving her a chance to be part of our lives. As the years went by, the boundaries we had set with my mother became second nature. She still tested them occasionally, but instead of reacting with anger, I had learned to respond calmly and assertively. I had learned to separate my childhood experiences from the present, ensuring Ava and Noah wouldn't feel the tension that had defined my own upbringing. The holidays became easier. Our home hosted many family gatherings, and while my mother still had her moments, they were far less frequent. She contributed without dominating. She helped without criticizing. She laughed with us rather than at us. Lily and I continued therapy individually and as a couple. Ava and Noah's development became a priority, and I made it a point to recognize when old trauma patterns tried to resurface in me. Sleepless nights, tantrums, work stress, these were triggers I learned to navigate consciously. Small victories became milestones. One afternoon, I arrived to pick up the kids and found my mother on the floor, reading to them. No pressure, no performance, just presence and love with open hands. I paused in the doorway and watched. The contrast with my own childhood was stark. No possessive grip, no demand for control, just quiet, gentle connection. Friendship, not just obligation, had become possible. Over time, my mother began showing subtle but genuine interest in others' lives, beyond her fixation on me. She asked Lily about her veterinary work, commented thoughtfully on Ava's and Noah's art projects, and even sought advice about her own personal growth from therapists. She was learning, slowly, but learning. There were moments of reflection for me too. Sorting through old photographs, I saw the tension in my own tiny shoulders, the anxiety in my eyes, and I compared it with Ava and Noah, free to laugh, explore, and interact without fear. I had broken the cycle. Professional help had been essential. Dr. Harris reminded me that healing was ongoing, not linear. Every small step counted. Even work-life balance improved. I stopped overcompensating to prove worth at the office. My relationships with colleagues strengthened. I was promoted, yes, but more importantly, I was present at home. My mother even began volunteering small, controlled help at our new house. She and Lily planted a garden together. Watching the tiny green shoots emerge from dark soil became a tangible symbol of growth and hope. She didn't control, she nurtured, and for the first time, I felt that perhaps there was a path forward. Not perfect, not without challenges, but healthy and hopeful. Years of therapy, boundaries, patience, and commitment had created something I hadn't dared to dream. A family defined not by obsession, control, or unhealthy attachment, but by love, respect, and mutual growth. Even extended family began to notice. Where tension had once been, there was now cautious optimism. Where judgment had existed, there was acknowledgement of progress. And in moments like these, I realized the most profound victory wasn't simply maintaining a relationship with my mother. It was that my children could grow up free from the shadows of the past, loved not as extensions of others, but as their own complete, beautiful selves. The final piece of the puzzle came as Ava approached kindergarten and Noah started preschool. My mother attended milestone events, first day of school photos, holiday recitals, and birthday parties, but she did so with restraint. She had learned to observe without controlling, to participate without dominating. The contrast with my own childhood was stark. No tense grip, no possessive stares, no demands that I bend my life around her desires. Even at family gatherings, she kept her distance when needed. She laughed with Lily, praised Ava and Noah for their accomplishments, and occasionally shared stories of her own childhood, but without twisting them to serve her narrative or make herself the hero. It was during one Thanksgiving, years after the restraining order, that I truly felt the transformation. Our home was bustling with relatives. My mom helped with decorations and the turkey, but deferred to our plans. She even collaborated with Lily's mother on the dessert table. I noticed something remarkable. She was relaxed, patient, present. She didn't seek validation, nor did she attempt to control the flow of events. She was simply there, a supportive presence. After everyone left, I sat with her briefly. No tension, no accusations, just acknowledgement. "Things are different now," I said quietly. She nodded. "I know," she replied, "and I'm grateful you gave me the chance to do better." It wasn't perfect. We both knew it never would be completely. But boundaries, therapy, and patience had created a space where our relationship could exist without fear, manipulation, or resentment. Lily and I continued to prioritize our marriage. We continued attending therapy when needed. We taught Ava and Noah that love is not possession, that healthy boundaries are not walls, they are guardrails to protect relationships. My mother, for her part, remained committed to her own growth. She attended therapy voluntarily, respected the limits we set, and celebrated the achievements of her grandchildren, without comparing them to me or anyone else. Over time, she even became an ally in helping Lily with her support group. Sharing her experiences gave credibility to the advice and guidance Lily offered, and in some ways, it became part of her healing too. Standing in the hospital when Ava was born, holding her tiny body in my arms, I never could have imagined the journey that lay ahead. Watching my mother interact with my children, I realized something profound. The boundaries I had set were not just protecting me, they were teaching the next generation how love should feel. Lily's patience, strength, and unwavering support had been essential. Together, we built a family that broke cycles of obsession, control, and emotional manipulation. As I watched Ava and Noah play freely, laughing, learning, exploring without fear, I finally understood the depth of the transformation. The greatest victory was not conquering my mother. It was creating a family defined by healthy love, respect, and emotional safety. And that, perhaps, is the legacy I want to leave for my children. A world where love is nurturing, boundaries are respected, and cycles of dysfunction are broken.